Hi friends, welcome to a Lovely Yarn podcast. My name is Amber. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's actually only been a week since I last posted an episode. That is highly unusual for me. So here I am. Now I am using a ring, like an O ring light. I don't even know what they're called. It's my daughter's. And so it's funny because my glasses, when I had it right behind the camera, my glasses were reflecting it, and so I had these two like O's in my glass and like in my eyes. So I had to move it to the side, and oh no, there you go, you can see it a little bit there. But I think it was so distracting to me, I couldn't handle it, and so I took my glasses off and then I couldn't see. So we're gonna try this with the light off to the side. It's so gloomy here. It's been so gloomy for I don't even know how long. And so I'm looking out my window and I see like a little tiny patch of blue sky. So I don't know if the sun may break through for a couple of minutes, but then it's gonna go away. So we're just gonna use the lighting today. But anyway, I wanted to film another episode this week because actually I have a lot of stuff to share with you guys, both knitting and crochet. But also, I realize it's November 17th, and we're midway through the month. I have a special scrappy episode I want to share with you guys that I actually have gathered all the information for. I just need to organize it before I actually sit down and film. And then I'm going to be doing Vlogmas this year, so that starts in a couple of weeks. So I was thinking, when am I going to get another episode in? And I'm starting to accumulate quite a few projects that I want to share with you guys that I'm working on. So I thought today is a good day to do it. Today's actually my birthday. So I spent the morning doing a few things around the house, and then my mom took me out for coffee and we went to a couple of thrift stores. I came home, did a couple of more things, and my kids are making me dinner tonight, so I actually have some time this afternoon. And I honestly contemplated taking a nap, which I rarely take naps, but I'm feeling really tired. I think it's the lack of sun. And so I thought, no, I'm gonna film a podcast. It's the perfect day to do it. I don't have any obligations right now. I'm gonna sit down and I can do it without feeling like I have a million other things to do. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I wanna show you is actually a knitted item that I wore in my last episode from last week, the scarf special. And thank you guys for all of your comments. So it seems that a lot of you enjoyed that, so thank you for letting me know. And also thank you for giving me more suggestions, because a lot of you recommended even more simple scarves. I'm sorry, shawls. I said scarves, I meant shawls. A lot of you recommended even more shawl patterns, and so I was able to go look at those and add a bunch more to my Ravelry favorites. So if you want to check that out, it's just last week's episode. And if I remember, I will link it down below. But many of you asked me what I was wearing, and I didn't even say anything about it, because although it was something to wear around my neck, it's not a shawl, it's a cowl. And so it just completely slipped my mind, but I'm going to show it to you now. Gotta get the tassel in there. So this is Birds and Ships by Caitlin Hunter, Boyland Knitworks, and it is just a cowl. But I love this cowl, and it's made with one skein of fingering weight yarn. In fact, it doesn't even take a whole skein. I think it calls for like 380 yards, and I didn't use the full skein. I don't remember what. I have a feeling that this was, oh boy, now I can't even remember the dyer's name. I know I purchased it in a little gift shop in Bar Harbor, Maine a few years ago. But now I can't remember. String Theory, maybe? I think that might have been the name of the dyer. The dyer was based out of that area in Maine, that general area. But yeah, this is Birds and Ships cowl. And it is perfect. It's not, like, the diameter of it is perfect. So let me slip it on, because I want you to see. I don't like cowls that are super like large around the neck and really open, and then they like hang down and then they don't really do anything. It's basically like you're wearing a knitted necklace when you wear a cowl like that. But this one is nice because, as you can probably tell, and I knit this to pattern, I didn't adjust it at all, it sits nice to my neck, and it's made with fingering weight, so it's not, this is not a cowl I would wear outside if I was going to be going out and walking on a cold day, but it is a cowl that feels good to wear in the house when it's chilly. And then it just has the little tassel here, which I love tassels, but you could leave it off. So this is actually a really nice gift knit to make, you know, since some of us do knit things for people for the holidays, others don't. I tend to be one that doesn't knit a lot for people I know. I do a little bit of it, but it's not like I head into this season thinking, oh, I need to knit this for that person gets this and this. No, I'm very specific on who gets gift knits, because they are very time consuming, and because I don't want to stress myself out with making a bunch of things, unless I know the person's gonna really want it and appreciate it. So, and I think all knitters understand that sentiment. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to show this one to you, and I highly recommend it because it's great to wear for yourself, but it's also great to give to somebody as a gift because it's one single skein of yarn, and I remember enjoying the process of knitting it. I don't remember thinking, oh, I just want this to end. I made this a while ago, so it has been a while, but yes, it's a cowl that I wear a lot. Okay, so I do have one finished object to show you, and then a bunch of whips, and an interesting yarn purchase, which I'm not really setting out to purchase yarn, but I'll explain later. But anyway, my first object that I finished is a hat that I think I just talked about it last episode. I hadn't even started it. I just said it was in my future plans, and it's the Pressed Flowers hat by Amy Christophers, or Savory Knitting. And here is my finished hat. And I knit this out of Barrett Wool Co. Woolens. I don't know if she carries this base all the time. This is something I wanted to give away last year. I knitted in these two colors. This is Old Fashioned and this is Lock. I don't know. So these skeins, it's sport weight yarn, 180 yards. So I used one whole skein of the blue, and then it feels like there's hardly any gone from this. And then I broke into a second skein of the blue. So I adjusted the pattern a bit because I wanted an extra thick, warm brim. We have cold winters here, and I go out and I walk every day. You know, snow, sunshine, mostly it's like gray weather here, but also where we live is on top of a hill. We live on top of a hill, and we built our house in the middle of a pasture. Now, we built here, I think it's been 2 decades since we built here, which is kind of crazy now that I think of it that way. And when we built here, there was nothing. It was just a pasture on top of a hill. So all the trees, we love trees. We went crazy planting trees. Birch, oak, various fruit trees, we have some mulberry trees. We have all kinds of trees. We love trees. But because it's only been, I'm gonna say 12 to 15 years since we planted those trees, because when we first moved in here, we didn't do any landscaping right away. We were just married, and we built our house. We built a very affordable house plan for us because we knew that one day I wanted to stay home. I was an RN at the time, but we knew that once we started having kids, I wanted to stay home. So we pretty much built the shell, did real simple stuff inside, moved in, and then it was like 5 years later when we started doing the landscaping and adding in the vegetation and stuff. So we have trees on our house that are, or on our property, that are at the most like 15 years old. And so they're not real big yet. You know, the birch are probably the biggest they're gonna get, but all the oak trees that we planted and the pine trees, those still are growing, of course. So I say all of that because it's very windy up on this hill of ours. In fact, when we used to have our little homestead here and our little hobby farm, I named it the Windy Knoll because it's very windy up here. So when I go out to walk in the winter, I need some warm stuff to wear. So I always like to, when I'm knitting for the purpose of me wearing outside, I always like to knit extra warm. And so I just doubled the length of the brim because I wanted to be able to fold it up. As I was knitting this though, I didn't gauge swatch. I used sport weight yarn, which is what is recommended for the project. And I kind of thought, it's looking a little big. But I just kept persevering because when I looked at the chart, I thought it's gonna take some thinking. And as I told you guys, I'm a little lazy in my knitting. I knit because I enjoy the process, and I also really love the product, but I don't really like to mess around a lot when I knit. So I like to I stick pretty close to the pattern. I make easy adjustments, but other than that, I want to be able just to knit the pattern and not have to think too much about it because I knit to relax. Okay, it has suddenly gotten even darker, so I'm going to have to film this without my glasses because I cannot stand to see the O-ring reflection in my glasses. It was just distracting me. So I think I can see well enough. Like my phone is probably 2 feet from me, so we're just gonna make do here. This is probably what it's gonna be like a lot this winter. If I'm gonna podcast frequently, unless I want to base it on the weather, which is not really a good idea here. Okay, so back to the hat, the pressed flowers hat. So basically, this is a charted pattern, and for me to make adjustments to the chart to either shorten the length, because I thought it's getting too long, it's going to be super slouchy. I don't like an overly slouchy hat, but for me to do that or to adjust the width, it would have required a lot of, for me anyway, thinking and planning and readjusting numbers and decreases and all that. And with the mosaics, I felt overwhelmed by that. So I thought, I'm just going to keep going and I'm going to see what happens. And I had a plan B in the back of my mind anyway. So I finished it up. You can see the crown decreases there. I think it's a really pretty hat. But I finished it a couple of days ago. One other thing, it's knit on a size 3 here, US 3, and then you bump up to a 5 for the mosaic portion. So I also wonder how it would have turned out if I would have maybe just bumped down my needles. But it's okay, because I have a plan. So I haven't blocked this yet because I'm going to try to lightly felt this hat. I'm thinking if I just felt it a bit, it's going to fit me more how I had planned for it to fit me. So that is what I'm going to try. I've done this only one other time. It was with a sweater. It was with my, I don't even remember. It's a Jennifer Steingass pattern, but I monitored it and felted it. Like I closely monitored the felting process of that, and it turned out really great. And I love that sweater. I wear it a lot. So let me show you what I'm talking about. When I put it on, it's not, see how slouchy? But if I pull it down on my head and kind of push it down, I can't see. I mean, people wear their hats like that, so it's not like it's a big deal, but I prefer it to not be that slouchy. Also, I wouldn't mind it being a little bit more tight around here. It's not bad. It's not bad, but if it's tighter, it's gonna be warmer. It's gonna keep my ears warmer. So I think it just needs some light felting, and I think it'll be good to go then. I've never felted a hat. I've just felted that sweater. I'm trying to figure out if I should do it by hand or if I should do it in the wash. I feel like if I do it by hand, then I will have like better control over it. So if you have felted something like a hat before, how do you guys do it? Let me know. But yeah, so it's not like really, really huge. And honestly, when I was reading the pattern, I read multiple people that said that it turned out a lot larger than they had wanted. So when I went into this project, I knew that was a possibility. But it's okay. I like it. I love the colors. I think it's super pretty. I think it'll look even prettier once it's blocked and the flowers lay a bit more flat. So, yeah, we shall see. I will let you guys know. I'll let you know what happens with it. I'll show in a future podcast. Okay, my next item I have for you is something that I was working on last time. Oh geez, I'm in the middle of a row. That was stupid. Okay, it's all right. Oh, what is the name of this? Let me look here at the chart. But the name has changed because whenever I filmed the last podcast and I went to look for this pattern to link to it in the description, it said it was discontinued, and then one of my viewers commented that it had been renamed. And I think what happened is the designer had published this for Craftsy, and then whenever it became her pattern again, she was able to republish it independently, and she changed the name a little bit. So it's the Boho Chic Mosaic Shawl, but it has a bit of a different name now. I think maybe it's just the Boho shawl. I don't know. It'll be linked down below. So you don't need to know it. You can just look at that link and get there through the link. But let me show you. It's in the middle of the row, so I can't really show it to you real great. But I'm almost done. I'm on the last chart. And I said before that I was actually following the directions for this, the written directions, rather than the chart. And I still am. The chart, I found the chart confusing for some reason. I don't know if it's just me or if the chart is confusing. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but I am using the written directions. It actually is very Christmassy looking, isn't it? Now that I look at it. But it's like a whole big, I just can't, because where I'm at. That was so stupid of me. Oh well. You guys will see it. You'll see it in the next episode when it's done. So I followed this to pattern completely, except this last little section, because I'm really looking forward to getting this project done and to get them off the needles. I am doing it a little bit different. So it calls for some knit purls, actually quite a few rows of knit purl, knit purl, knit purl. Well, this is a lot going on here. There's a lot of stitches on here. I'm not sure exactly how many, but it's a lot. And I didn't feel like knitting and purling for that many rows over and over again. So I'm just doing garter, a whole section of garter ridge. And if you watched my shawl episode last week, you know how much I love garter ridges. Garter ridge sections in shawls. I love them, so I'm not upset about this, and so it's not a big deal for me to change the pattern. I almost felt like I was being like lazy and that I should just persevere through and do it the way it was written, and I'm like, why though? Because I really like garter. I love the look of garter. I love it in shawls. It's super squishy, so I'm just gonna do garter. And so that is all that's left. It's a triangular shaped shawl. Can't show it to you real well because I was silly and stopped in only about an eighth of the way through a row, but it's going to be big. It's going to be so big and so cozy and so comfy, and it's going to be ready for, like, I'm going to have this ready for the Christmas season. It just reminds me of Christmas. I mean, you could wear it other times other than Christmas, but look, just so pretty. So yes. I'm enjoying this, and I'm using Cloudborne. I linked all the other information I listed in my prior podcast that I talked about the shawl, but this yarn from Cloudborne is discontinued now. So the only way you'd be able to find it is maybe if you did like a yarn destash search on Ravelry. But the shawl uses 4 different colors, and I'm using Cloudborne Highland Worsted. So, yes, this will be done. I'll probably show it in Vlogmas. It's so easy. So easy to get the color work. You know, it's a form of color work. It's just not stranded color work. It's mosaic. So if you're, like I said before in my last episode, if you're feeling nervous about doing stranded, first of all, just do it. It's so much fun. I mean, maybe you won't like it. I happen to love color work, but just give it a try. And it's probably worse than what you're imagining it to be. I mean, it's probably so much easier than what you're imagining it to be. But yeah, or you can start out with some mosaic, because you're just, when you do mosaic knitting, you're just slipping stitches. Okay, I have been knitting like crazy because I don't know, I've just been, I think it's because it's been so dark and cold and kind of like yucky that I've just been wanting to knit a lot. So I have something that I hadn't even started on my last episode. I have it almost completed. It's another Felix, and I was trying to figure out if I wanted to make a pullover or a cardigan, because the previous Felix I had knitted was a pullover, and it's pretty warm, so I wasn't sure if it would be better to do a cardigan, because I had already bought the yarn for my second Felix and it was the same kind of yarn. What I ended up doing, well, let me show you what I got here. This is more true to color, but not even that. It's because I'm having to use the artificial lighting. It's more of an orangey red than this is definitely showing up more like cherry red. But I have finished the body. I made this one slightly longer than the first one by about probably 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. And then I just need to finish the cuff on this sleeve. Gosh, losing stitches. So that's hanging out on this, but I started the second sleeve because I was out somewhere when I was working on this, and I wanted to measure the sleeve up against my first Felix, like kind of lay them out on top of one another so I could see how long I wanted to make this sleeve, because the other sleeve was perfect. So that's why I never finished it. I just instead picked up stitches on this side and started knitting the second sleeve. So something else I did differently, I used Boho Mercado. Let me see here if I have the, I need to see if I have the band. I bought 5 skeins and I'm only going to use 4, and that's what I used for my first one. But I thought when I knit this, when I bought the yarn for the second one, I thought I want to buy 5 skeins because I want to make this one a little bit bigger. I don't seem to have, I don't know what this colorway is, so I'll have to post it down below. Again, it's showing up way more cherry red. It's, if you've ever used the Boho Mercado before, it's kind of like a heathered, and it's got more than just the one color. So when I look closely at this, it's got like red and some gold in it, which is why it gives it more of a, or like a rusty red rather than what is showing on the screen. So I ended up going up 2 needle sizes. So I knit the first Felix on size 8 needles, and I went up to size 10 needles for this one, because I thought if I do that, maybe it will make the fabric less dense, which it would, that only makes sense, and then it wouldn't be such a hot sweater to wear, because the first Felix, the fabric that I made with that sweater is extremely dense, which is why I think it's such a warm sweater, and I sometimes have a hard time even wearing it in my house. So I went down a size for this one because I went up 2 needle sizes. So this is gonna be, it's gonna be more oversized than my first Felix, but the fabric is also like, it's just got a bigger gauge. So it'll be, I'm hoping it'll be a little bit less like heat trapping, that there will be a little bit more air movement. I guess we'll find out, right? But regardless, I think this Boho Mercado is just the perfect match for this Felix pattern. Actually, I want to make a third one, and I got on to order the yarn, and then I resisted. But there's this really beautiful, like gold yellow color that they have in this line. I don't remember what it's called, but it's beautiful. I love it. I love that color of yellow so much. And so I almost bought 5 more skeins and then I stopped myself. But maybe in the future I will get that and I will try it. And so that's my Felix. The reason I didn't do the cardigan is because I had read that on the project pages, and I don't even know if maybe some of you guys had mentioned it too. Some of you mentioned that you really loved the cardigan version, and then I had a few people mention that, and then I read that it kind of like lies weirdly on their body. And so, and I know what they're talking about because I've had that happen with cardigans before, and I don't like that, and I won't wear it. So I just decided to go for something that I already knew that it would turn out, and I didn't have to worry about it, whether I was going to like it in the end. Mostly because I just wanted an easy knit, and I just wanted something to kind of like fully relax while I was knitting. I started this when Brad and I we went to Virginia a few weekends ago, and I knitted on this quite a bit on that trip, so I wanted something easy. And I didn't, honestly, I know it's stupid, but I don't really like a lot of purling, so that was another reason. Whoa, here comes the sun! Now I'm gonna have to shut a blind. Okay, blind is shut. The light is still on, but it's not reflecting too much in my glasses, and not enough to distract me, so I'm gonna go ahead and put them on until it gets really bad again, and then I can't stand looking at myself. My next work in progress is actually for a friend of mine. It's for her son. Okay, this is called the Elevensies cardigan by Lisa Chemery. I think she's, oh yeah, Frogginette Knitting. She has a lot of patterns for little ones. So let me show you what I got. I'm actually pretty far along on it. It's going to be hard to show because it's all curled up along the edges because it is, you know, the stockinette. But this is what I have so far. And, you know, this is all curled up inside because it needs its ribbing band, its band. But I just picked up stitches for this sleeve, and I already did the pockets, like the pocket lining. This was the first time I made pockets in knitting, so that was cool, and it was super easy. And then what's really cute about this pattern is that it has elbow patches that match this moss stitch pattern that's on the pocket. So when you get down to about halfway on the sleeve, I'll actually be knitting in some moss stitch to do like an elbow patch. And then I just need to do, so I need to do both arms, and then I need to go back and pick up for the button band and knit that, and that shouldn't take me long. And then I'll need to find some buttons. I have lots of buttons. I just need to go to my button drawer and find some buttons that would look cute with this, and then it'll be finished. So I want to hurry up and get this done because I told her I wanted to knit a sweater for her son back in, I think it was the end of summer, and I was looking for a pattern and I found one, and then I thought, oh, I don't know if I want to do that one, and then I think I heard somebody, another podcaster, talking about this Frogginette Knitting and all the patterns that she has, and then I remembered I used to watch her podcast. I don't think she films anymore, so I went and looked her up and found a lot of cute patterns. I saved quite a few to my Ravelry favorites for whenever I might need a little kid's pattern. But I am using Lion Brand Woolies worsted because it's a gift knit. It's for a toddler boy, and I don't want to give her something that she's going to have to hand wash. So this is it. And the colorway is Arrowwood. I bought 2 skeins. I used the first one up, and I've got quite a bit left of the second. I started knitting the size 2T. He is 15 months old, maybe 16 months old, but he's kind of, I think he's probably smaller for his age. And I thought, oh, it's looking really big, like too big. And I'd rather it be a little bit big because then, you know, you can roll up the sleeves or whatever and then he'll have it longer. But what I ended up doing is adjusting things so that it's somewhere between 18 months and 2T size. I just messed with the numbers a little bit. So yes, that wasn't hard to do though. This. And it kind of, honestly, it happened organically, and then when I realized I did it, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to keep going with that. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to say about that, but if you need some patterns for little ones, check out Frogginette Knitting because she has really adorable ones. And yeah, honestly, I was looking, when I was doing a search for sweaters to make him, I was like, wow, when I have grandkids, I'm gonna have so much fun knitting them things. That is all for my projects, my knitting projects. I have a couple of crochet projects just to show you really quickly because let me just talk about them. Okay, so this is a prayer shawl. Actually, it's a lap blanket. So I participate in the prayer shawl ministry at the church that I attend, and we just started meeting up again. So we started meeting, I think, a year or two before the pandemic, and then when that all happened, we stopped meeting, and then we never started back up until the end of, I think it was early fall. And I had said to the other woman that had, so there was another woman and I that had started the ministry at our church, and I contacted her and I said, hey, let's get this rolling again. It's time to get back together and, you know, start making some prayer shawls again. So we had our first meeting last month, and then we had another woman from church who volunteers at a local personal care home. She asked if our ministry could make 40 lap gans for the residents there. And so that is what we are currently focusing on. And we our deadline is the week before Christmas. So that's quite a few. I think that there's maybe 10 of us that are in the ministry. When we had our meeting in October, there were only, well, there was probably 10 of us that showed up. It was kind of a come and go thing. But I have my first one done, so I'm going to show you. And I'm not going to be able to show you real easily because, you know, it's large. It's too large to fit in the camera. But it's just, all I ended up doing for this was doing a granny square. Like just working around as a granny square. So you start in the middle, work your way out, and then I went until I knew it would be big enough. So it's just, you know, because it's made to set on someone's lap. Some of these residents might be in wheelchairs. I don't know. So you have to consider that. You don't want anything too large, or it might get stuck in the spokes of the wheel. But what I ended up doing for this is holding yarn double. So I got, just from Walmart, I got this Mainstays basic yarn in the burgundy colorway. And then I held it double with a Wool-Ease Cakes. And that was the colorway. Let's see, I used two different skeins. They're like these skeins that are variegated. So I used this one and this one. And Aphrodite and Hecate are the colorway names. I started with the Aphrodite and the burgundy in the middle, and then as I went out, I ran out of the first cake of yarn, so I pulled out that Hecate skein and started it. And I have about half of that left. So, and I went through two skeins of this yarn from Walmart. And let me see, this has 397 yards. So that's my first lap can. I'm going to start a male version one of, I have another type of Wool-Ease variegated yarn that I'm going to hold double with some, I think I have navy, I either have navy or gray yarn that I'm going to hold double with that. The reason I'm holding it double is because when you do granny squares, you've got those holes in there. And when I tried just doing it single, just doing it with this yarn, and it was too lightweight. It didn't feel like it was going to have enough warmth or coziness to it. So I thought, I'm holding double, and now it's so it's so cozy. It's like, ooh. So while I was doing this, I got the idea to make a blanket for my daughter-in-law, and I sure hope she doesn't watch this. I don't think she watches this. I don't think she has time. She works and she's in college, so. But I have that here, and I did it the same way as I did that lapcan, only I made this blanket sized. And I used Super Saver in the minty colorway, and I held it double with this variegated that I got at Michael's last year. I think I actually bought it while I was doing Vlogmas. But it's a Karen skinny cake, and it's in the colorway Melon Smoothie. And so it's got like peaches, turquoise, off-white, pink, some mustard. And this is what we got. And it's bigger, so it's going to be harder to show you because it's a full-size blanket. But yeah, I just did this the same way as the lapcan. Start in the middle, work your way out. And this is so convenient to do a granny square or a granny rectangle blanket because you just keep going. You're just doing the same thing until you either run out of yarn or you reach the size that you want. And so it feels very predictable to me. So this was nice. And I worked on it, and actually, because I held yarn double, it went pretty fast. So this will be the first handmade thing I'm giving my daughter-in-law. Her and my son have been married now for just over a year, and so this is the first handmade thing. I think it's the first handmade thing. I'm pretty sure the first handmade thing that I've given her. And then I have a little bit left over. So what I'm going to do with that is actually knit a hat, or maybe two, depending on how many I can get out, for another ministry that's in Pittsburgh that collects hats, like for the homeless. So we'll see how many I can get. I know I can definitely get one, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to be able to get two. Knitting takes up so much less yarn than crocheting does. Yeah, so I'm just going to see what I can do with that, and that's also something I need to start quickly as well because they collect, I think, like beginning of December, maybe mid-December, so I'm running out of time for that. But yeah. Okay, and then one other thing I wanted to share with you guys before I end this podcast episode is a new yarn that I just found. I've never heard of this before. It's by Lion Brand, but it's called Respun, and it's 100% recycled polyester. You know me, I like wool yarn. I like natural fibers. But I saw this at Joann's this week. I stopped to buy more yarn for the prayer shawl ministry, and they had this there. I had never seen it before. It's these huge skeins. They were $8.99, and then I had a 40% off coupon. This colorway is called Cider. It's really pretty. It's going to be hard to get the color because of the lighting. 658 yards in one skein. And it says it's like a worsted weight. I feel like it's a light worsted weight. So I bought two of these because I'm either going to make a sweater or I'm going to make, thinking about making the Humblebee shawl. Oh gosh, one of you recommended that. Emily Kate of Emily Kate Makes. I think it was her that recommended the Humblebee shawl by Fiber Tales. And I thought, ooh, this is a pretty color. I feel like it would be really nice for that. So I don't know. I've never heard of this before, but I thought I'm going to give it a try and we'll see. We'll see how it holds up. I don't know how it holds up. Typically, I like Lion Brand yarn for like gift knitting and stuff. I think it looks less waxy or plasticky than a lot of the other acrylic containing yarns. I think they do a pretty good job with that. And this actually looks really nice, and I mean it has a little bit of a shine to it, but it's also got like a nice fuzzy halo to it. So I'm excited to use this. But that is all I have for you today. I'm so glad I could get on here and film a quick podcast. And I'm sorry if the lighting was all wacky because I'm thinking it might be really dark in some sections of this, but I'm not going to go back and refilm this now. When it got super dark on the film, it was flurrying outside, like there was a bunch of snow coming out of the sky, and now that has stopped, and again I see a little like a little tiny patch of blue that the sun is just having to make its way down through. So it's just what it is. But thank you guys so much for joining me. Stay tuned for next, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, next week I'll have the Scrappy special episode up. I found so many patterns for that. I'm gonna probably have to eliminate some of them, or the episode will be way too long. But I just thought it would be a perfect time for that kind of an episode, because some of you guys get advent calendars, and we all have, I mean, okay, I shouldn't say we all, but I would have to say that probably a lot of us have a lot of scraps. And so most of the patterns are going to be fingering weight patterns, but I also found a couple for different weights of yarn that I'm going to throw in there as well, because you never know. And a lot of times we can just adjust by holding 2 or 3 strands of fingering weight to get a worsted weight, or 2 strands for a double weight, a DK weight. So that'll hopefully be up at some point in the beginning of the week. We'll see how my week goes. And then Lily and I'm planning on doing Vlogmas, and she's excited about it as well. So last year I did every single day except the one weekend Brad and I went to Lancaster, and I just did I squished 3 days into one video. But I'm planning on doing it the same way, filming a little bit every day. We'll see how it goes. I always hate to truly commit myself to something, because then it feels a little bit overwhelming up front. And that's how I felt last year. But then once I got started, I had a lot of fun with it, and I just was really, it actually inspired me to really embrace the season when I was sharing it with you guys. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But thank you so much for watching this episode. And if for some reason I don't get around to filming another one before Thanksgiving, I just wanted to wish a happy Thanksgiving to all my fellow Americans out there. That's next Thursday, a week from today. It's my favorite holiday, so I have so many good memories of Thanksgiving dinner at my grandparents' farm. It's one of those things, when I think about it, it just makes me feel so good inside. So that has stuck with me into my adult years, and Thanksgiving is my most favorite holiday, followed by Christmas. And Thanksgiving is like a kickoff holiday, right? Because we've got Thanksgiving, and then we go right into the holiday season of Christmas. So it's just a really nice, warm, cozy time of year for me. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching and for all your comments, and I truly appreciate them. And if you liked what you watched today and you're not a subscriber yet, please go ahead and subscribe if you would so desire. I appreciate that as well. And I wish you lots of fun with your knitting and lots of creativity to come your way. We'll talk to you later.